The Bambu Lab's A1 Mini is one of the best pieces of technology I've ever owned. And I'll tell you why. Let's talk about it. The idea of getting a 3D printer was always in the back of my mind. However, knowing people who have 3D printers, specifically the original Creality Ender 3, they've always expressed the daunting task of having to manually level the printing bed and do all of these other calibrations just to get a decent print. That combined with all the other mechanical issues and maintenance that you have to do when things don't go as planned with a print. Basically, it just seemed like paying a couple $100s for a headache, and that turned me off. And then I got into FPV. And recently, after almost losing my DJI Action 2 camera because it flew out of my TPU mount, that's where things changed because I now needed a better, more secure TPU mount so that never happens again. So the first thing I did was use Tinkercad to combine a sleeve and a base that I found to make a TPU mount, and then I had it sent off to Brain 3D to get it printed. I had two made for me with different infill percentages for a little over $30, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't seem like a lot until you want fixed mounts for several of your drones at 25 degrees or 30 degrees or whatever. And that's when it hit me. I could just buy my own 3D printer and save a lot of money in the long run and print my own TPU mounts and anything else that I may need and not have to wait a week for it to get to me or pay per printed item. Fucking Einstein here. Sure, it'll probably be frustrating, but whatever, I'll get through it. And that's where the research began. It didn't take long reading through forums, watching YouTube videos, and scrolling Reddit to realize the best printers on the market are primarily made by Bambu Labs. Specifically, there were a lot of recommendations for the A1, but I ain't got that much space to work with, so the next best option was the A1 Mini and the AMS combo. It's pretty much the best printer you can get for the price and functionality, and I have been blown away by how easy it is to use this thing. Again, I did not have much space to work with in my room, so I had to find a desk that was going to be just big enough to sit this on top of. If you're in the same situation, you can purchase this desk right here from Amazon. As you can see, it fits the A1 Mini and the AMS unit if you're interested in multicolor printing, and I'll leave a link in the description so you can find it if you need it. When the printer arrived, it took about 20 minutes to set up. Bambu does a really good job of walking you through setting up the hardware components, and once that part is done, all you have to do is follow the on-screen instructions and let it do its thing when it comes to calibrating everything. When that was done, I cleaned and relubricated the X and Y axis, and we were all set at that point. I did play around with the user interface on the machine to kind of get familiar with what I was looking at. It's very intuitive, and there's not really much on the screen. Everything that's there needs to be there, so there's not really any fluff, which I personally like. And when you're loading new filament, it'll walk you through the process from getting the filament to the extruder, purging the old filament, and making sure the new filament is extruded properly. It even does automatic unloading where it'll heat the nozzle and cut the filament for you. Mind blown. Now, I had some Bambu PLA filament and some SainSmart TPU filament that I'd already dried out with my poly dryer box, so I was ready to print right away. And no, my first print was not the Benchy. It was a removable poop bucket, which has worked so well keeping my printing space clean and filament not on my floor where my daughter can put it in her mouth. Safety first. But when I tell you I had little to no knowledge of 3D printing, I mean that shit. But I was still able to go onto makerworld, find a print that I liked, load it into Bambu Studio, and hit print. The filament profiles and print settings are already preloaded, and if you have Bambu filament, it already knows what color you're using via RFID if you're loading it with the AMS unit. There's also preset profiles for other filament brands like Polymaker, eSun, and I've imported print and filament settings from Overture's website. It was so easy, it felt like I was doing something wrong, like I cheated on a test or something and finished early and everybody else is just sitting there type vibes. But the A1 Mini printed flawlessly without any issues whatsoever. Adhesion to the print bed was great, mainly because it comes with a textured PEI plate, the print quality was great, and I didn't see any print defects anywhere. It just works. And because of that, I found an excuse to print something almost every other day. I just love seeing it create things, and as somebody that's new to the 3D printing space, it's just wild. Or maybe I'm just a control freak and have a problem and need therapy. The Bambu Handy app has also been nice. I can just find something I like on MakerWorld and send it straight to the printer. So far, I've printed a TV remote holder, a basket for my supplies, a desiccant dry box holder and funnel for the poly dryer, a few jar lids for the wife, some wall mounts for my drone, some cable clips, custom filament dry box, inserts, and a hygrometer gauge sleeve, along with a few more things, and the Benji for my daughter. And I have a whole list of other things that I need to print, or want to print, and so does my wife. But just listing that out, I realize I've printed a lot more than I thought I have. This list is going to be way longer in the next month. Again, before printing, I did dry the filament using a poly dryer, and I ended up with 2 of the storage units and 1 dryer and quickly realized that I was going to need a cheaper, bigger, and more efficient storage method. And that's where I printed off this contraption here that I may talk about in another video and purchased a 20-quart Sterilite container to place it in. Everything that I previously mentioned was printed with Bambu Lab's basic PLA white and Overture PLA black. But I've also been printing with black SaintSmart TPU for my action camera mounts. And that's where I started to run into issues. Really just one main issue: stringing. There's nothing like waiting 2 hours for a print to be done just to go pull it off of the plate and notice these weird little spiderweb type strings all over it. And that was my introduction to TPU. So after doing a good bit of research and finding a good SaintSmart TPU preset, I came to the conclusion that I needed to do a string test. I found a Print in Bambu studio to test this out and quickly understood that temperature was the main culprit for why my TPU was stringing so damn much. For the test, I changed the speed to slow and started with a temperature of 240 degrees Celsius, then 220 degrees Celsius, 195, then 215. For the section where I was printing with a nozzle temp of 220 degrees, there was no stringing. I did test retraction, but I found no difference in how anything printed. However, I read online from multiple sources that this could also be one of the main causes for why your print might be stringing. But when I went back to reprint the mount at 220 degrees, it came out perfect, outside of the sections where I had to pull off the tree support. Those look a little rough, but at the end of the day, it's a mount that's meant to be smashed. Who cares? So how has this thing helped me? It's definitely helped me save a little bit of money so far. I printed 5 TPU mounts so far. At Brain 3D, they charge $15 per TPU mount, or at least mine, so I've saved a little bit of money there. And again, I've also printed a drone wall mount. Usually I would have paid like $12 each from this eBay seller online for the exact same wall mount that I found the STL for. And a TV remote holder. On Amazon, these could be anywhere from $12 to $25. So I'd say I'm on track to get my money's worth out of it. The one thing that I love the most though is the almost instant gratification aspect of it. If I need anything for my drone and I have the STL for it, I can have it in 2 hours or less. I can print extra of whatever I need at the drop of a hat. I can print household items, toys, STEM projects, you name it. There's probably an STL for it. So what do I dislike about this thing? Well, after having the Mini for about a month, I already wish that I had the full-size model. There's just some things that I would like to print that I just can't because the print bed is so small, like large storage baskets or mid-sized shelves, for example. I print in a tiny office space and it's very hot and humid here in Kentucky, so I was hoping to just keep it enclosed and then just vent everything outside of the window. Until I read on Bambu Lab's website that this printer is not supposed to be enclosed. So that's out the window. So now my only method of ventilation is to close all of the doors, open a window, and use a little tiny fan because I haven't bought a bigger one to try and vent everything out of the window, and it gets hot as hell in here. Something else that I noticed is there's not very many filament options on Bambu Lab's website for the A1 Mini as compared to the larger printers they sell. So if you're wanting anything a little bit more experimental as far as filament is concerned, you're going to have to venture out to other brands, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that big of a deal to me. There's also videos and information that I've read about Bambu Labs creating somewhat of a walled garden to prevent you from using third-party software or making RFID tags for third-party filament in order to use it with the AMS system. Now that does suck, but I don't think I'm that deep into 3D printing for it to matter to me right at this point in time. But I will take that into consideration when I'm looking to buy a bigger printer somewhere eventually far in the future. So the bottom line is, if you're new to 3D printing and you're looking to just jump right in, the A1 Mini is damn near perfect, man.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Especially for someone like me who doesn't have a lot of space to work with, or maybe you're just looking to print some small things and get a feel for it before dropping any serious cash on something bigger. But either way, I can't recommend it enough. It's great, and it makes learning about 3D printing a lot less daunting and way more easy to digest. It's even inspired me to learn Fusion 360 to try and create my own STLs and scratch that creative itch. But let me know what you think. Do you have a 3D printer? Are you interested in getting one? If you do have one, which one do you have? Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe. Catch you later.